So I said I would do a video on my setup. Don't copy my setup, but maybe take some ideas from how I set up my Necromancer or any class probably, and then figure out how you want to play the class and what works for you. I always get questions about how I add color or change the size. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to that. This video will probably be a little long. First off, you can change the button size, and depending on what you're doing, I think that's as small as it gets. Go down to 40, go up to 175. You want to add some color. You right-click on your mouse, go to Window, go to Background, and first you go Texture, and that prepares it to accept color. And then Tint Color, and you can decide what you want this to look like. If you want them to be visible all the time, you can make sure that's the case. You go to Alpha, there's Normal Level, and Faded Level. Faded Level is when you haven't been mouse clicking over that. So say you want that to disappear, 100%, so you don't see it. Come over here, reappears. Or maybe you want to know it's there, but be able to see through it. So it's not annoying. So that's kind of how you do these hotkeys. What else is there here that needs to be? Background, texture tint, alpha, arrange. I don't do any of that, but you can do that. You can, if you just want to. But I don't do that. So we're going to get rid of this hotkey. Up here are just one of my guides. I use D a lot to target the nearest NPC. And there's no NPCs around here, but this key doesn't do anything except tell me the D key cycles to the nearest NPC. This tells me that if I want to hit the extended target, let's say it should work. Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. Sorry. These keys don't do anything. So if you're pressing this key thinking it's going to hit the extended target window, which I was there momentarily, you will be sadly mistaken. It tells you what you need to do to add people to the extended target list, and how to take them away. You need to target it, or you can do the last is removed. So you can remove that. Usually when I'm a group, I'm going to pick the group assist target, or the pullers target, or the tanks target, whatever the group I'm having, however it's marked, whatever is appropriate. You want to go back to auto. If you're a healer, a lot of times, and say you're in a raid or in some sort of situation where you're healing somebody out of the group, you can add them to your extended target window, and then you know when they need heals, etc., and you can take them off. If you need to go to you and then an NPC, this tells me I'm switching back and forth. This tells me this is just a guide that I set up, and the reason it cycles, I put a timer. It looks nice. I have split up most of my spam so that I can go to check and see what's going on. And I send group to this window, but I have all my speech there. So if you want to talk to me and you say it in guild chat, a lot of times I won't see it because I'm not reading it. You need to send me a tell. Over here is another guide that tells me I have my attack line here, so I want to go to my attack line. Attack, Pestilent Perilous, Scent of Thule. These are keys that I'm using when I'm actively engaged in combat for the most part. If I'm burning or actively casting spells, a lot of times I'll hit Shift 2 and I'll go to the second hotkey bank so that I have all my spells there. I know you can hit Alt and you can do it that way. I just find it's easier for me to just hit one number rather than Alt 1. I'm lazy. I don't know what it is. This works really nice for me. That's what I say. You figure out how you want to play the character, what works. The one thing I will say is work hard at converting your setup to a situation where you are hitting keys and not mouse clicking. I am guilty of mouse clicking far too much, even though I know that as a result of lag, the key click is often going to be a much better result. So, did I just kill myself? No. Let's see. Shift 1. So go back to my attack line. A lot of times I'll hit the D key. That'll target the nearest mob. I will hit the 3 key. That sends Scent of Thule. That pulls the mob to me. Or if I want to split, I will target one mob, then the other mob. Then I will do Pestilent Perilous with the 2 key. I'll hit the N key. I'll be back to the other mob I was just at. Or actually, last target G. So the G key, which is why I have this guide up here to remind me of that. So I can target here. And this is the last target. The other way would be targeting me and whoever the last target is. So, hit the G key. Then I'll hit 3, Scent of Thule, pull it in, or Pestilent Perilous 2 if I want to split and then immediately switch to the other mob. I'm trying to use keys as much as possible. I have here on my Cascading Dread Shield and Icy Revival. These are my heals. I use the J key. Anytime I hit the J key, it's going to do the next heal that's ready. So first it'll do Cascading Dread Shield, which is a little better. It puts it prevents 40,000 points of damage. It puts some runes that wear off, and it heals. It's a really nice spell for tanking. So I often will hit that J. Icy Revival is your heal. It's a great heal, and it refreshes instantly, so you can just heal as much as you need when you're pet tanking. The K key, I think that does blood. I don't think I have anything there because I've changed the way I do that. So this is my first bank that I use the most. Attack, Pestilent Perilous, I use a lot to either boot a mob out of camp or to split 2 mobs. Scent of Thule, especially with undead, it slows, debuffs. Whisper Wind is there because if you get snared or something, it can save you. Encroaching Darkness, you know what that's for. Dead Mez, thanks TOV, COV, big undead zones. You can mez the dead. The fact is, it sounds counterintuitive, but you can even mez the live if you needed to. You just hit Char Bones, and then if Smoldering Bones sticks, then you can mez them. You've wounded them, and now you've mezzed them, and they're out of the battle. Fear Storm is nice because it essentially lets you mezz live mobs for 36 seconds. Up to 4 level 114 or lower. So if you've got a bunch of blues coming to camp, you hit Fear Storm and it freezes the action for 36 seconds. This is my pet back off key. It hits the back, you're out of combat, he feigns, then 2 seconds later he summons the pet, and so that's if I need the pet out of the action, that's what I use. I hit the 8 key. My invises, my feign deaths, and we'll stick to this. We go to the bank 2, of course, that's the spell bank. Bank 3 is my pull bank. It's very similar to bank 1, but I include Rest the Dead, Dire Charm, a few little things like that. It's not something I use too often, but if I'm going to be lulling mobs, I do that. Shift 4 is a utility bank, Summon Remain, Summon Corpse. This is if I need to buff myself. It buffs the back slot, the charm slot, my Unity AA. It mounts me on a mount, so I get my illusion buff. If I've lost that for some reason, it dismounts me. And so this is my buff. Item 22 is the mount. What else do we have here? I block heals, complete heal, and all my heals over time when I'm using a mercenary cleric, because they heal much crisper. But if I am working with a real cleric, then I unblock these heals and I remove them. So it's Sincere Elixir, Promise Redemption, Mending Splash, and also Complete Heal, which some clerics will use if they're set into efficient mode. It's not efficient, but they do what they do. So block heals, puts those back in the blocking. In this case, it puts them for the pet and myself. Then I have a bag. This is my first bag. This is 23-0, Blightbringer's Tunic of the Grave. So it's 23-1, 23-3. It lets me access really for stuff I don't want to dedicate a full slot to, but I can get to quickly, and obviously there's just a bunch of trash in there. Trash. And my teleports. Encroaching Darkness, that should not be there. That was there because I was doing a different key at some point. And good, I've just freed up a slot. So 4. Shift 5 is trash. It's stuff that I have no particular use for. Font size, I need to see big. I have had a cataract in my right eye, and I have a cataract in my left eye. Had the cataract removed in my right eye, and I have an artificial lens there, and I can actually see so much better. So that's trash now. I don't use it very much. Rest Alive. It's much easier to do it manually, but I like to play around with concepts. And so this would, and in this case I've changed it, but because I'm not using it because it's trash, but it casts Char Bones, then it would lull the mob, and then I would, I believe, feign death. $428, yeah. So this is all trash. Charmed Alive, cool. Every now and then you want to do that. Again, usually easier to do manually. and you can see that it's trash, but I have changed where I put char bones, and so you would update it if you were going to use that. Easier to do manually. When you cast char bones, you're going to have 12 seconds if it goes off. I have a Gyna trigger that will tell me let's cancel this. When Smoldering Bones takes place. So if I use Char Bones and the Smoldering Bone effect goes, Gyna will tell me. And at that point, I have 12 seconds to do whatever it is I need to do. Pet Feign, just key, I don't have that because I use my super fancy pat back off key. And by the way, that's how you change the color of a particular key. I do that like a tag to draw my eye as I'm looking here for something that I don't use all the time, but I occasionally need it. So that's trash, back to trash. Pet IDA, again, is how you play a Necro. The idea that my pet, since I do a lot of tanking, is going to suddenly become invulnerable isn't a good idea. But if I was using a rogue pet, then I might bring this back into the forefront and I would use it and cast it because I don't want to lose my rogue pet because he's not tanking and he doesn't need to hold aggro. So this is trash that I'm using. We go back here. So that's what this bank does. And I did it this way because I was taking up far too much space and it was becoming unhelpful. Let's see, this is utility corpse drag. It's really good to have a corpse drag key. So this works if you're near the corpse, it'll target it and begin to drag it so you can do a drive-by and snag a corpse. It's really nice with my Bard. I don't do it as much with my Necromancer. Hide corpse. I hate a pile of corpses because I'm always clicking on one by accident and my advanced loot pops up and I'm like, why do I have advanced loot up when I need to be dotting and working? So that's that. All my pets, Rise of Bones, Swarm, Wake the Dead, Forced Rejuve, which I don't use that often. It was really nice when your dichotomic, your composite heal was still more useful than it is now. I would use that heal for like whenever Gift of Mana procced because it's 16,000 points of mana. But I don't use Force Rejuve that much anymore. I don't think about it. It's there. If something came up that I needed to spell to renew it, which are taking too long, I guess Call Skeleton Horde would be something. Most of these spells and Char Bones. So the two spells you might use it on for in a rare instance, I think Char Bones would be the #1 slot. You're trying to charm a mob that is live and you want to make him undead, and it fails the first time. Force Rejuve, immediately redo Char Bones. Hopefully it'll work. So there's Force Rejuve. And I have it in 2 slots. So I'm going to take that off because slots are precious. And I will figure out things to put in there. Rub of Whispered Death. You don't need that too much, but it is a little bit useful if you are working with a second Necromancer and you want to fulminate your alliance spell. You can do it now with all the extended, the fast cast times. You can get off your 4 dots with one Necro can do it, but this counts as one of your 4 dots, and it's very quick and very easy. You've also got Necromantic Dragon Bone. So if you got those two, you cast a regular dot, Dragon Bone, regular dot, Whisper Death, and there's an extra 3.5 million damage you've just done. And now you cast your alliance, and the other Necro does the same thing. So this can be handy. Of course, the latest and greatest little toy we got with the last anniversary eventual. Okay, Funeral Pyre, Gathering, and Life Burn. These 3 are damage, extra damage that I don't have in my burn line for various reasons. Gathering Dusk just gathers too much aggro because it cancels your subtlety and increases your aggro. And if you're doing a burn on a named mob and you draw aggro before the tank has time to really build it up, then you'll die and you've just lost all that damage you could do. Funeral Pyre shortens the duration of your damage over time spell and increases their base damage. You don't want to do that during your burn because you're doing everything you can to make your dots do more damage, crit more often. You don't want to shorten the time of them, even if they have additional damage. It's better to cast that after your other burns fade. So that's why this is not in my straight burn line. Life Burn is fun. It just doesn't do enough damage to be worthwhile. But if I'm in a safe situation and I'm casual, I do Life Burn occasionally. It's not as dangerous anymore. I usually end up with quite a bit of hits. So this is my pre-burn. This is the burn line. Pre-burn hotkey. Mercurial Torment, Focus of Arcanum, and Heretic's Twin Cast. Those are 3 AAs that you want to have up before you cast your dots because they help. One, Mercurial Torment means you cast your dots faster. So obviously if you cast this after you cast your dots, you're not getting the benefit of that. Focus of Arcanum helps your dots stick harder. You want that when you're casting them. And of course, Twin Cast, if you cast all your dots and then you cast Twin Cast, you're not going to be burning any charges from Twin Cast. Twin Cast takes effect when you're casting a new dot. So these are your pre-burns. And then, so these are the 3. And then usually when I do my pre-burn, I'll also do Silent Cast because I know that we're going to be taking, generating a lot of aggro, and I don't want to be that one guy to go down. This is my burn. I think that is Silent Cast. So technically, I'm already doing that. And then Hand of Death, damage increaser. And then the Tunic, which is what I use anytime I'm in a group at a casual. And then after that fades, if I still need it, I would go to Intensity of Death with refreshes every, I believe, 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours. And then I've got my Glyph, which we're at the end of the expansion. I've maxed my AAs now, so I tend to use that whenever I want to earn more AAs or if I'm in a situation. Staunch, you've got it, use it. It does refresh slowly. It's really, if you're a raider, you usually save it for your raid days. Okay, so those 2, this one we've discussed. Over here are all things that are used to sort of save me. And Bomber's Carapace gives you a 50,000 point rune. And it refreshes every 15 minutes. I use it anytime I'm taking aggro. This is another your robe is helpful in terms of, okay, it puts a buff on that means the next 10 damage spells you cast will do additional damage, 62,500 additional damage, and then it will give you a percentage of that back as a heal. Oh, well, I'm not going to fix it right now. Harm shield, rarely use that because I have my feigned deaths. Occasionally I'll use it if I want to keep standing up and then click it off and go back to casting. Levant, get out. So these are to save me. This puts my Merc on passive, react, active, passive, active. Because I like to control when my Merc is healing. The same with hold. I don't have a button for that because buttons are precious. Force Rejuve, we've already discussed that. This memorizes the wound spell. This memorizes my Necro, my standard spell set. This is the one I use to buff up. So let's say I didn't have a pet. I would hit it and it memorizes both pets. And if I need the rogue pet, I just change it. And it memorizes the pet haste, and it memorizes frozen skin, and then it summons the pet. Haste the pet. Hits me with frozen skin. And cast command use Aegeus. You can do this faster manually, but it's the kind of thing that you're doing like when you're first starting a group or in camp or your pet just died, and you do it over and over and over again. Forget it. If I can make my life a little bit easier, that's what I do. So this is my Necro Spell Set. The standard spell, it changes all the time. I mean, in the last video, I have a different one. I'm constantly tinkering with this depending on what's going on. What I don't tinker with for the most part is where my dots are memorized. So let me show you. This is my standard Necro spell set at the moment. My burn line, you'll notice everything remains the same, except it adds an additional Ignite Intellect. Searing Venom. The only reason I have Searing Venom in there is because I have this imaginary idea that I will get the kill shot with it and get a free Essence Emerald. And then wounds, septic wounds. If the fight is going to go 2 minutes, septic wounds is good DPS and well worth doing. It's going to be your second highest damaging dot after Pyre of Clagric. If the fight's not going to last 2 minutes, don't do it. And frankly, most of the time, it's there. It completely alters your burn a little bit, and so it's a choice. You don't want to do it, don't do it. You want to do it, do it. And that's 2 minutes, by the way, is with you taking off your back piece when you cast wounds, then putting your back piece on. This is what extends the duration of your dot. So we're looking here. This dot will last 1 minute and 42 seconds to 2 minutes with my back piece on before it proliferates. And the only reason you're casting wounds is you want that proliferation. Sure, 5,300 is nice damage, but it is less than my lowest dot otherwise. This actually is this 5118. That's false because it's also doing damage for each point of mana drained. So it's actually a relatively high DPS spell. It can be shockingly high if you get the right crits and numbers. So what do we got here? So that was wounds, Necro Spell Set. Again, I keep as much as possible my spell slots the same, and the reason I do that is because my Gina triggers are Gina triggers. I am so bad at pronunciation, but in this case, my Gina triggers tell me when my dots need to be refreshed. So I would cast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit blood, and it's going to tell me when this is getting ready. In the last 3 seconds, it's going to say 1, and then it's going to put cast pyre across my screen. I hit the 1 key. So it's going to tell me exactly, it's like dancing to the numbers. 1, 2, 7, 3. As it refreshes, I don't have to think about it. Do I use Gina when I'm just grouping? No, not all the time. I don't need that telling me. But when I'm doing a burn or when I'm being serious, I'll go ahead and fire up Gina, and it's going to tell me when to recast and stuff. Let's see. So those are my triggers, buff, passive, active, force rejuve, wounds. Blood magic and Death Bloom. I cast Death Bloom anytime I'm about 90% mana. You want to pop that thing down every time you get. Once you get about 50% mana, consider doing blood magic. Even if Death Bloom is up, if you're down to 50% mana, hit blood magic and Death Bloom. Then you'll regenerate mana, and when blood magic is up and you're in a group with healers who can take care of this stuff, cast every spell you have. It's all free now because you're going to be being healed. You're just going to cast every dot every mob. It's really nice. Something to keep and manage in a burn. You're burning hard for a long time. You're out of mana, blood magic, you're back in the game. Okay, so those are those keys. Okay, cast 1. This is when I'm feeling I'm in a very casual group, and I just I'll hit attack 1, and I'll move these over, and I'll hit 2, cast 1, and it will just work through. It'll assert for blood. It'll cast my first 3 dots. Sometimes I change the order depending on how fast the group is killing. Maybe I want to do shorter dots. Maybe I don't want to do my disease dot. Same thing, cast 2. In a group setting, casual group setting, you're going to judge your mana and how long mobs are taking to die, whether you're going to cast a second one. This is really lazy. This is when you're going to be, you're sitting for hours and you don't have the melody key. So instead you just cheese it. Is it faster and more accurate to do everything manually all the time? Sure, of course. And the fact is, I only used these cast keys last time like about a week ago when I was in a slow group and just, did it. But for the most part, I get on, I play for an hour or so. I play really hard and really intense. Frenzy Dead, part of my burn setup, but also, I use that occasionally. Dire Charm, very rarely, but there are places where Dire Charm can be quite effective. And I think I've got a video that shows you how you can Dire Charm a level 113 live mob if you need. And that's a lot of hit points. It can be a great tank against a named. My pet companions, Aegis, I don't know how to say that. Fortify Companion, Suspend Companion, Summon Companion, Mend Companion, and then these are kind of heals and Eradicate Magic. Rarely use it, but if you need to use it, it's there. Embrace the Decay, Dying Grasp. This is my setup. Let's see, is there anything else to cover? We've gone on far too long, but now you know how I play a Necro. For the most part, I'm trying to use keys, but I do mouse click a lot. Why do I have songs above here? because I want to monitor when Defiler's synergy is up and other little things that come up I need to know about. If you're a Necro, why do I have this big target window here? Because you are going to be lighting up the target, and you want to monitor. If you're not using Gina, you want to monitor when your dots need to be refreshed, and you will become very familiar with, your fire dot. Okay, I've got 3 fire dots, but I know the order of them. I've got a couple magic dots, I know the order of them. My disease dot, when things need to be refreshed. You can use it this way, or you can use it Gina. And that is it. I think you've now seen my setup. Frankly, Drunkard Stein, if I have room, and I do now, should come up here because it casts so quick. It's really a save your life type device. If you can either Levant out, or you can, in a couple seconds, end up in the plane of knowledge. So that's it. Again, these are always changing as I come up with things that are important or unimportant. I'm always trying to think of a way to do things through hotkeys, or, is there a different way I can use a spell? I try and remember the abilities of a Necromancer. They have a shocking amount of, they can be an enchanter, they can pull, they can be DPS, they can even heal in a pinch, especially Frozen Shadow, which I don't have memorized right now. That is a group heal that also heals your pets. I mean, it's a heal over time. It just helps, especially when you're trying to tank really tough mobs, named mobs. Between this with the extra heal, you've got it all as a Necromancer. It's a lot of fun. For heaven's sake, don't set up your setup like mine, but I think you'll see that there's a lot of things you can do in terms of how you set up your Necromancer so that you can make your life easier and more effective. I will talk to you guys later. Take care.